Hey folks, it's Tom at FrugalPrepper. So, I'm primarily a carnivore, 98% meat. But once in a while, I like to have a little cheat day. And when I do have a cheat day, I still keep it really clean keto. And I really miss having pasta. And so this is my way of making a really clean keto style pasta dish. It's going to be a spaghetti squash and meatballs with carnivore / keto Alfredo sauce. It's very pure ingredients, very clean still, and I can eat this and still have have a good time. So I'm going to go ahead and just turn my stove on and let that start warming up. Bake 350. So I'm going to turn the stove on to 350, start that, let that heat up, and we're basically going to take our spaghetti squash. I'm just going to cut the top stem off of it here. And this is a spaghetti squash that came from my garden. And spaghetti squash are really tough. So it takes some work to get through them sometimes. It works better with a slightly bigger knife, but this is what I got. There we go. So now we got our spaghetti squash all opened up, and we'll take and we'll scoop out these seeds and this middle pulp with a spoon. And we just take and scoop them out. I grow these in my garden, and I store them pretty much all winter long. They just store just on a shelf. You can buy them at the store, but they're a couple bucks a pound, so they're kind of expensive. But when I run out, I will buy them, or if I run out. But you just basically want to take and scrape all of this stuff out the middle. It smells a lot fresher than a store-bought one too. They smell better. Scrape all this pulp out of it. Just like so. Make sure all the seeds are gone, most of that pulp's gone, and that's good. So I'll take and put this one over here on my pan with my aluminum foil. Put it face down like that. And you can save some of those seeds and use them to grow some next year. That's the awesome part. These are just an heirloom variety. I don't even know what kind they are. They're spaghetti squash. Save the seeds, use them to grow. Sometimes you'll get a spaghetti squash that's green. And usually when you store it, it'll eventually turn kind of like a darker yellow. But they're still spaghetti squash, and they taste like spaghetti squash, and they eat like spaghetti squash. So I eat those as well. But I don't save the seeds from the green ones. I always use the yellow ones, but it seems like even then, I still get some that are green. And that's good enough. Okay, we'll put this one upside down on our pan. And then I'll put these in the oven once it gets to 350 and bake them for about a half hour, 40 minutes. And we will get started making our meatballs while we're waiting on the oven to heat up. And I'll show you how I do that. So for my meatballs, I like to use some ground pork. This is 1.4 pounds of it. I probably use closer to a pound most time, but we're just going to use this whole package. I got this on special for 10% off. Like 6 months ago, and it's been in the freezer. So we'll take them, we'll dump that in there. And then I'm going to use some ground beef, and I'll probably use about half of this package. This is 3 pounds, so we're going to be about 50-50 mix, you know, of this. So we'll take about half of this and dump that in here. Now we'll take and put the rest of this in a Ziploc bag and put it back in the fridge, and I'll be eating that this week. Alright, so what I like to do for my meatballs is, first of all, well, I'll show you that in a minute. First of all, I put some Italian seasoning in here. This is just Kroger brand Italian seasoning. I put quite a bit of that in here. And then I take this garlic powder, put some of that in here. And I don't have a whole lot of that left, honestly. So these are going to be a little light on garlic. I also take my dehydrated onions. These were dehydrated from my garden last year. And I'll take and put, since we're light on garlic, I'm going to go a little heavier on these. Maybe about that many. But normally not quite that many. I mean, onions are one of those things that is keto, but it has some carbohydrate in it, so you want to watch how much you eat. And then I'm going to take and put some salt in here if I can find it. Here it is. And I'm just using some Redmond's real salt. About yay much of it. We'll put a little more salt. There we go. Okay, and then I'm also going to put some black pepper in them. About yeah, much. Okay. So now we're all seasoned up. And we just have this stuff in here. We're going to mix it up with our hands. But this meat will stick to your hands. It'll be a big mess. What you can do is take you some bacon grease. I have a mason jar of bacon grease. Take a little bit of that and rub that on your hands. And that will help keep the meat from sticking to your hands. Make sure you get it down there with your fingernails and stuff too. My hands are kind of dirty because I'm a mechanic. I mean, they're clean. I washed them, but they're stained up. So, and we got some of this stuff in here from the pork. All right, and now you just mix them together. And you'll just make sure they're good and mixed. But trust me, it'll stick your hands a whole lot worse than that if you don't put bacon grease on them first. Oh, and there's my oven. It's heated up. So kind of try to get as much of this off of your hands as you can. It's not too terrible because of the bacon grease. Okay, and now I'm just going to wash my hands. Alright, so now I'm just going to take my spaghetti squash here and get them in the oven and get them started cooking. And I got to move this rack. Somebody put it down too low. There we go. And now we'll just throw these in there. Let them start cooking. So now we're ready to make our meatballs by rolling them up into balls. I just have this pan with this cooling rack I keep in it, so that they don't sit in the grease. That lets the grease strip off of them. They'll still be nice and greasy, don't worry. but too much grease can kind of make them taste off. So I like lots of fat and grease, but you know, not too much. So now I'm just going to take and put bacon grease on my hands again. And then we're just going to take this and take a size about like that, roll it into a ball. You can make these as big as you want, but as they get bigger, they take exponentially longer to cook in the middle. So you want to keep them kind of small if you can, if you're trying to do this in a hurry, right? And we just stack them on a plate like this, and roll them up and put them on here. And we'll do that with the whole thing. And I'll be back when that's done. Alright, so now I've got all my meatballs all rolled up and stacked on here. We'll put these in the oven, then we'll give it about 40 minutes. That should have the spaghetti squash done and the meatballs all done, and we'll be set to go. The spaghetti squash might be ready to come out a little before that. We'll just see. Right now we're gonna put these in the oven and let them start cooking too. Okay, and now we'll put this bowl back in the sink. And now we will get started making the Alfredo sauce. So this Alfredo sauce is really pretty simple. There's 3 ingredients: some heavy cream, some butter, some Parmesan, and really some red band salt too. You can't forget that. But this is really simple. This one's almost empty. I'm going to use it up first. And we just put this on low and pour our heavy cream in there. And this is a lot better than those Alfredo sauces you buy at the store, which have all kinds of strange things in them. That's plenty. That's probably a little too much, but that's okay. And we'll take a half a stick of butter. We'll unwrap that and throw it in there. And I'll just try and break this to a couple pieces. There we go. And then I'll go ahead and take my red band salt. About much of it. We'll put that in there. And then we're just gonna let this kind of heat up a little bit, and then we're gonna stir the Parmesan cheese in it after it gets getting warm. So I'll be back when it's time to put the Parmesan in. Alright, so now I've kind of got the butter melted. It's hot and steamy, but it's not like boiling hot. So now we just want to put this Parmesan cheese in there and let that melt nice and slow. If I can figure out how to get it open. There it goes. Okay. And now we'll just take it and we'll just sprinkle this down in here. I'll put about half of it in and then kind of stir it a little. I may have to use a little extra Parmesan. I have another container because I did do a little too much heavy whipping cream in here. But we'll let this melt in here and see how thick it gets. So I just kind of keep stirring it like this while it's melting down. I stir it very often and let that Parmesan melt in there. Yeah, I think we're definitely going to need more Parmesan because I used a little too much heavy whipping cream. So I'm going to put about another half of one in there. There we go. And now we'll just keep stirring it. it will thicken up as this Parmesan gets all melted in there. And I'll be back when that's done. Alright, I brought this up to a little bit of a boil. It's thickened up. Cheese is pretty melted in there. I've gone ahead and turned it back down on low. And we'll just let it stay on low while we pull our spaghetti squash out the oven. And it looks pretty good. Tastes pretty good too. Alright. Now we're ready to pull out the spaghetti squash. We'll just pull that out, and then what I like to do is turn my spaghetti squash upside down here. Careful, this is pretty hot. Turn that upside down to let it start cooling just a little bit, and then we're going to take a fork and break that up. But we're going to wait another 10 minutes or so for the meatballs to finish cooking, and then we'll be ready to do this. Basically, I'm doing the spaghetti squash now. You just come down here and scrape it with the fork. Until you get down to the skin. And this is a nice substitute, low carb substitute for pasta. So there's that one. As you can see, it makes nice little spaghetti-like strands. So now we'll do the other half. And I just have it here. And you just go over it with the fork. And you scrape those out of there. Oh, there's a seed that got left behind. We'll get that seed out of there. And I'll continue scraping these out. There's another seed, darn it. There's a couple more seeds. That's the first time I've ever missed some seeds. That's okay, we'll get them out of there. And we'll just scrape this down, and I'll get this all done, and I'll be back. Okay, so now what I like to do is take and put some butter in here, and I'll just get a knife and we'll cut up some thin pieces, because my butter dish that's at room temperature is kind of empty. So I want these to melt. And then we'll also put some salt in here. It was a little much. Okay, there we go. And now we'll just kind of stir this up. Let that butter melt good. Oh, there's another seed. Oh, got it. Okay, that's good enough. So now what I like to do is take my Alfredo sauce and put some of that in here. We put some of our Alfredo sauce in here, like so. We just mix that up in the noodles. Maybe just a little bit more. Okay, so now we're ready to pull out the meatballs. Okay, so now I'll go ahead and pull out the meatballs. There we go. And what I usually do is just grab like the biggest one that I see, or a bigger one, cut it in half, and make sure it's done. And that is done perfectly. So now we're ready to plate this up and have some. So it's about a cup of spaghetti squash, has about I think 6 grams of carbs or something like that. So you can be pretty liberal with this. I'll probably have like a total of a couple cups. Just like so. Here we go. And then we'll put our meatballs on it. And I like a lot of meatballs because I'm primarily carnivore, so the meat's good. The meatballs are the best part. There we go. And now I'll just take and put a little bit of extra Alfredo on this. Try to get over the meatballs if I can. There we go. And now we have spaghetti squash with Alfredo sauce with meatballs. Good eating. Good eating.